Everyone got used to one version of Oklahoma City, the one that didn't blink, the one that ran teams off the floor by halftime, the one that looked like it was playing a different sport than everyone else. And the dangerous part is how fast that became normal. 24-1 isn't just a hot start, that's the kind of start that rewires expectations. It makes you forget how hard it is to win in this league on a random Tuesday in December when your legs are dead and the other team is playing like their coach threatened to cancel Christmas. So when the Thunder went from 24-1 to suddenly looking human, it felt unreal. Like when your favorite app updates overnight and now nothing is where it used to be. You're still using it, but you don't trust it the same way. Or like when you see a magician mess up one trick. You know the show's still good, but now you're watching their hands. And that's where we are right now. Because OKC is still sitting at 32-7, still technically the best record in the NBA, still on top of the West.
And sometimes Washington is in such a hurry to get out in transition. The Thunder know that.
Oh, the dribbling, SGA got to his spot.
But if you've watched the last couple of weeks, you know something feels off. 6 losses in 12 games, some of them ugly. Some of them weird. Some of them the kind of loss where you turn the TV off and do the silent stare into the wall thing like you're trying to process a bad trade you made in 2K. One of them against a Charlotte team that walked into their building and treated it like a shooting gym. And that's when the doubt starts creeping in. Not full panic, not blow it up, but the kind of doubt where you start asking questions you didn't have to ask a month ago. But before we start, if you love basketball and you're one of the 90% who watch without subscribing, it's time to join the NBA Inside family. Click it, and let's live the season together. So, the question isn't whether OKC is good, it's whether the version we saw in November ever really comes back, or if that was the peak. And yeah, I know how dramatic that sounds, but that's what happens when you start a season 24-1. You don't get to be normal after that. You get measured against perfection. And right now, OKC looks normal, which is a funny sentence to say about a team that still has the best record in basketball. But that's the standard they set. Let's talk about what actually changed. Because it isn't just bad luck, and it isn't just shots not falling. That's the lazy answer. The Thunder built their entire identity on one simple idea. Pressure creates chaos. Chaos creates turnovers. Turnovers create easy points. Everything flowed from that. They crowded passing lanes. They jumped dribbles. They forced teams to make decisions half a second earlier than they wanted to. They turned routine possessions into mini emergencies. And when it worked, it felt suffocating. It wasn't even about shot contests all the time.
Take time to rebound. Rebounders love to have guys help you out like that.
Oh, Shai, the spin move!
It was about time and space. You'd see a guard bring the ball up, and by the time he crossed half court, he already looked annoyed. Not scared, not rattled, just annoyed. Like, oh my god, these guys again. That's a real advantage. That mental drain matters. It stacks. But here's the thing about pressure-based systems. They only work when everyone's connected. When one piece slips, the whole thing starts to unravel. And over the last months, a few pieces have slipped. Let's start with the obvious one, the shooting. OKC went from being automatic to being hesitant. And I don't even mean the percentages first. I mean the body language. Early season OKC shot like they expected the ball to go in. Now you see the extra half second. You see the little pump fake that turns a good look into a late clock problem. You see the pass that's technically unselfish, but it's really, please, somebody else shoot this. Over their last dozen games, they've been outshot from the floor and from 3 in almost every loss. Under 32% from deep in 5 of them. Under 29% in 4. That's not a slump, that's a trend. And when this team can't stretch the floor, everything shrinks. Shai's lanes disappear. The kickouts become predictable. The ball movement slows down because defenders aren't scared anymore. You can see it in how teams guard them now. They sit in the gaps. They stunt early. They crowd the paint and dare OKC to beat them from the outside. A month ago, that was suicide. Now, it's a calculated risk. And it doesn't even have to work perfectly. It just has to work enough to make OKC second guess, because hesitation is basically defensive gold. And that's a big deal for an offense that lives off drive and kick reads. OKC isn't built like a slow, methodical, mismatch hunting team. They don't want Shai dribbling for 12 seconds waiting for the perfect switch. They want quick decisions, quick attacks, quick punishments. When the shooters cool off, the whole rhythm gets sticky. But honestly, the scarier part hasn't been the offense. It's been the defense. This team built its reputation on being relentless. Deflections, scrambles.
Back over to Mitchell. 5 seconds, Mitchell. Little mismatch. Got the big man on him and still slips through.
Those weird OKC possessions where the ball hits 4 hands before it even gets to the rim. The kind of defense that doesn't just stop you, it embarrasses you a little. That edge has dulled. Their deflections per game are down from what used to be a league-leading number. Their transition chances are drying up. Their opponents aren't feeling rushed the same way. And when that goes, OKC becomes something they were never meant to be. A half-court team. That's not their strength. It was never supposed to be. They can still do it in stretches. They're talented. They're smart. They're well coached. But their superpower is making the game ugly for you. If the game turns into clean half-court offense versus clean half-court offense, that's not a cheat code anymore. That's a coin flip with good players. Then there was the Hornets game. And yeah, I keep coming back to it because it was that bad. Charlotte walked into OKC and shot over 52% from the field, over 51% from 3. Out-rebounded them by almost 20. That's not a fluke. That's a team getting punched in the mouth. And you could feel the crowd go quiet in the second quarter, like they were all waiting for the Thunder to flip the switch. It never came. That's what made it sting. Because OKC normally has that moment. That stretch where they force 3 turnovers in 2 minutes, and suddenly it's a 12-0 run and the other coach calls timeout like he just watched his team forget the rules of the sport. Isaiah Hartenstein goes down and suddenly OKC has no safety net on the glass. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, and without him, their second chances evaporated. And it's not just about rebounds. It's about the little stabilizing stuff. A big body who sets a real screen. A guy who can hold position. A guy who turns a broken possession into another 14 seconds.
Holmgren, part of this game. Hartenstein, an offensive rebound. Holmgren.
When he's gone, the margin tightens. Jalen Williams is still trying to find his rhythm after wrist surgery. Chet Holmgren's shins keep barking. Jalen Williams can't stay on the floor. And now Shai's ankle has been a question mark. This isn't one injury. It's a slow bleed. And when you're built on chemistry and timing, even small absences mess with everything, especially when the schedule turns ugly. Early in the year, OKC wasn't exactly being hunted. 5 games against winning teams during that 24-1 run.
J.O.B. Gilgeous-Alexander made a little bit of space, shot it over Wembanyama. I thought I heard him say.
Since then, 6 in 12 games. And that's when you find out what you actually are. Because beating up on teams that are still figuring themselves out in November is one thing, playing teams with real game plans, real physicality, and real belief is another. 3 of those tougher games were against San Antonio. And yeah, the Spurs figured something out. They played OKC physically. They denied the easy passes. They crowded the paint and dared the Thunder to live in the half-court. And it worked. 3 losses in 12 days. That's not a coincidence. That's a blueprint. It's also a warning. Because in the playoffs, nobody's gonna give OKC a comfortable game. Nobody's gonna let them coast into transition. Nobody's gonna let them play pretty. They're going to grab. They're going to bump. They're gonna test the refs. They're gonna test OKC's patience. And the last couple of weeks have been a preview of that. Here's where the twist hits. Because even with all of this, OKC's underlying numbers are still ridiculous. Plus 12.8 net rating. Best defense in the league. Still near the top offensively. On paper, they're fine.
Directed at Van Dyne. Very interesting. SGA off the catch. Lets it fly from downtown. And SGA's.
Which makes the slump even more uncomfortable. Because it means the Thunder aren't broken. They're just out of sync. And that's actually harder to fix. You don't get the blame effort. You don't get to blame talent. You have to rediscover rhythm. And rhythm is weird. You can't coach it into existence with one speech. Sometimes it comes back because one guy hits 2 threes in a row and suddenly the floor opens again. Sometimes it comes back because you get one nasty defensive stop that reminds everyone who you are. OKC has had little signs. The Utah overtime win. The Memphis 1-point escape. They weren't pretty, but they mattered. Because those games reminded OKC what it feels like to grind again, not glide. And sometimes that's what a contender needs. Not another blowout, a reminder that you can win when you don't feel great. So, what does the rest of the season look like? Probably not 24-1 again, and that's okay. There are still Lakers games, Celtics, Nuggets, Bucks, another Spurs run, Warriors games that turn into track meets, random road nights where your legs feel like cement and the other team shoots like they're auditioning for a contract. They're gonna lose some, maybe more than people expected a month ago. But here's the part I keep coming back to. Every championship team goes through this. Every single one. 4-game losing streaks, weird stretches, moments where the identity wobbles, moments where fans start saying, "I'm not worried but," and then immediately write a 600-word paragraph about why they're worried. The real question is whether OKC finds theirs again before April. Because if Hardenstein comes back, if Jalen Williams finds his rhythm, if the shooting normalizes, this team is still terrifying. And I mean terrifying in a very specific way. Not we have 3 guys who can score 40.
Missed the first 19 games of the season. That's a lot.
He's been very outspoken. That's a really tough finish by Cason Wallace.
Terrifying like you're gonna work for every single touch. Terrifying like even when you run a good set, the ball might still get tipped. Terrifying like you might play well and still lose by 11 because they got 18 points off turnovers. That's who OKC was early. But if the defense doesn't snap back, if the ball movements keep slowing, if the pressure stays soft, then yeah, the Thunder didn't fall off. They just came back to earth. And now they have to prove they know how to launch again. Because the league isn't gonna feel sorry for them. The league isn't gonna stop adjusting. And the scariest part is this. Once teams smell that you're human, they stop being polite. They start believing they can beat you. And belief is contagious. So for OKC, the next stretch isn't about the record, it's about the edge. Do they get it back? Do they start forcing teams into bad decisions again? Do they turn the game into that uncomfortable, cramped, chaotic mess that only they seem to enjoy? Do they stop letting teams walk into their buildings and shoot like it's warm-ups? Because if they do, nothing changed. This was a blip. But if they don't, then the early season Thunder wasn't a warning to the league. They were a memory. And nobody wants to be the team that peaks in November.